You remember Dynasty, darling. That decadent display of diamonds, divas, and designer duds, of Carrington's, Colby's, cash, and catfights. Well, the toys of Dynasty were manufactured by the likes of Rolls-Royce and Cartier. Thankfully, our friends at Mattel, well, they've come up with something a tad more accessible, shall we say.
I love Dynasty, and I have for a very long time since the show originally aired back in the 1980s. It was a groundbreaker. It was one of the two biggest primetime soaps of that era. Of course, the other arguably being Dallas, which I loved as well. So I can't wait to get these girls out of the box. And this week we're going to talk about Alexis. Next week will be Krystle. So Alexis, only 2 Barbie dolls were made by Mattel for Dynasty, and they were made at the same time. I first saw them when I went to the San Diego Comic-Con several years ago. I think it was like 2010, 2011, and they had basically the prototypes for these, and I walked by that booth, the Mattel booth, and I'm like, just about having a heart attack, and I rushed to take pictures and put them on my blogs. I'm like, wow, this is big. Dynasty, this I consider my really big chance to show you something Dynasty, because while there was a little bit of merchandise for the TV show, it really has not been of the toy variety. There have been some collector plates, there have been some clothing patterns, there have been some fragrances and things like that, and there have been a couple other doll styles over the years. But to have Mattel do Barbie dolls for Krystle and Alexis, I think that was huge. Now this one, the Alexis doll, and this is really doll. There's nothing action figure about these lovely ladies. I mean, come on, doll, Barbie. I found her at a Toys R Us in Metro Detroit going on 3 years ago now. It was probably about 2.5 to 3 years ago, so in 2013. And I want you to see something. I kind of messed with this a little bit. I almost took her out of the box when I first bought her, because I was trying to decide where I was going to display her, and then I ended up thinking, oh, I'm just going to leave her where she is, and I did not open the box. I just put her on the top of one of my bookcases in my office until I figured out where I was going to put her, and I had not gotten the Krystle yet. But Toys R Us originally marked $39.99. I think that probably was retail. $40 sounds about right for a lot of these collectible Barbies when they first have come out the past few years. But what you can't see here, what I already tried to remove, because as I was trying to decide what the heck to do with her, if I was just going to display her in the box, because the box is very nice, by the way, or if I was just going to take her out of the box, I tried to take the price tag off. I did take off the clearance price tag, and what I bought her for, you're not going to believe it, under $10. I believe, if I remember correctly, it was about $8. I think it was $7.99 at Toys R Us. And boy, let me tell you, I was missing that Krystle. I looked over the whole Barbie shelf like 14 times. Okay, there has to be a Krystle here behind some of these Wizard of Oz Barbies or whatever, but there was no Krystle there. So I embarked on a search for Krystle after that, and I will get into more of that in next week's episode when we focus on her. Oh, Ms. Joan Collins. What can I say about Joan Collins, who played the amazing Alexis, Carrington, Colby, Rowan, bunch of other crap. It became its own thing back then. And for this, because like I said, this is my one big chance to show you something Dynasty related to toys, I'm going to use a few props. And so let's back up for a second and talk about the show itself. I did this thing, and I always look up stuff in my own book. And so Dynasty premiered January 12th, 1981. It was a 3-part premiere titled Oil. And it ran several seasons to 1989, May 1989. Let's find the exact date here. Blah, blah, blah. May 11th, am I remembering that correctly? Oh, this is Colby's stuff. Sorry, this is like live TV here. I do have the Colbys wrapped into this as well. Yeah, May 11th, 1989. And then they went into the reunion in October 1991. Of course, Dallas lasted until 1991 itself in regular runs, 2 years after Dynasty. So 1981 to 1989 was Dynasty. Joan Collins came along at the end, kind of at the end of season 1. It wasn't really Joan Collins. Alexis appeared, but with a veil over her face at the very end of season 1. And then when they started up season 2 in the fall, they had fully cast Joan Collins in the role, and she was out there. And the show would never be the same. She really took the show by storm. And of that era, she was the female J.R. Ewing. You know, Dallas had its J.R., and Alexis was the answer to that on Dynasty. She was a female powerhouse. And one thing I appreciate about her even more now than when I watched the show in the 80s when I was a teenager. And nowadays, I'm watching the show at kind of the age that she was when she took on this role. She was in her 40s and in her later 40s, and she proved that a female could be a powerhouse, a beautiful, powerful, magnanimous female in her 40s, and I love that. I feel like even in the decades since then, in the decades since that 80s heyday, we've gotten away from that. We tend to, in television and movies, really cling to the worship of the 20-something, and it's really a shame because she was just amazing, and so I appreciate her even more now. So let's look at this doll. Now I'm going to say this dress, I always kind of thought of this as sort of a bronze lame gown, and this is a pretty well-known piece. Of course, Nolan Miller was the designer of the gowns that these two gals wore on Dynasty, and I want to say that as far as the Alexis character is concerned, this is the gown that you saw her in a lot in promotional shots. I'm going to show you a couple examples of that. Here's another prop. This is the 4th season DVD set, and here we see the two ladies in these two gowns that they chose for the Barbie dolls, and that was no mistake. I think this came out before the Barbie dolls, but this promotional shot was used a lot for the show. And so there she is with the ruffles on her shoulder and kind of a variation of the famous shoulder pad of 80s fashion, which you'll see on Krystle's gown as well, but just an amazing cocktail dress. And then here's another prop. Oh, this one is crazy. I can't believe I'm showing this to you. I've never really shown this anywhere. This was, let me just say, I'm a geeky girl from so far back. I've always been a geeky girl. And so when I was watching the show, probably about the late 80s, early 90s is when I worked on this, and I first started using that amazing device called the computer back then in ancient times. I compiled information. When I loved something, I compiled information. Never meant to distribute it or show it to anybody. It was just for me because I wanted information as I watched the show. So I have all kinds of clippings from when the show was on the air, especially since my brother subscribed to TV Guide. And so each week in TV Guide, I would cut out, sorry, Scotty, I would cut out the synopses, and actually this was an even more ancient device called a typewriter. I would type in the date, like this one is from February 6, 1985, and so I would cut it out and either tape it on or glue it on, and then put the date below it too, just for my own reference. And when I went later to work on projects like this, a lot of that information went into it. Of course, these did not. I rewrote all the synopses myself just to have my own original content for those. But it was so helpful for reference. And then also, there's these nice things that I also cut out and taped in here and use the typewriter label. This one is the TV Guide ad for the week of December 21st, 1983. You can see that date there that I added. And you can see Alexis Carrington wearing that bronze lame gown. Krystle is not wearing her own dress from the Barbie doll, but Alexis is wearing that gown. And I think this was, if I remember right, I'll have to look it up in the book, but I think it was like the Denver Carousel Ball or something that was that way. Tonight, an astonishing announcement! Oh my word, what can it be? So I collected all this stuff. And then I started to compile, again, really just for my own fun and reference, the cast list. And this is the original computer printouts of the character guide and all this crap that evolved into what's in here. So just something crazy. The other side, by the way, is Dallas. I'm telling you, I guess as a teenager, I had way too much time on my hands. That certainly is not the case these days. So let's open this gal. I don't want to make this episode 30 minutes long and dribble on too much. I'm going to cut to the top. Like I said, I started to open this before. And the packaging is really nice. I'm really torn, even though I am, as I've noted in other episodes of this series, I am an out-of-the-box girl. I'm really torn on whether or not I'm going to keep the packaging. Oh, look at that. This certifies that your Dynasty Barbie doll was created by designers and artists at Mattel. So just a simple certificate of authenticity. It's the Barbie Collector pink label here, and it is copyrighted here 2010. So I think it must have been the 2010 San Diego Comic-Con where I saw this beautiful thing for the first time. And so we got the verbiage on the bottom, Dynasty Barbie doll for ages over 6 years. And of course we know these are geared toward the collector market. Mattel logo, etc. BRBGlobal.com. Pink label collection. They also have a black label, gold label, and platinum label. I'm assuming that's still the case. I haven't bought a Barbie in a while. Now on the back, we'll just take a look for a second here. From, oh, they got the dates right here, January 12th, 1981 to May 11th, 1989. Dynasty kept us glued to our TVs with its primetime soap opera. The story revolved around rich and powerful oil tycoon Blake Carrington, his former secretary and current wife, Krystle Carrington, and scheming ex-wife, Alexis Carrington Colby. They could always be counted on for a cataclysmic catfight. Barbie celebrates those gloriously decadent drama divas dressed in gowns. Oh, there we go with the alliteration again. Inspired by the original Nolan Miller design. So, Mattel, you ever think about doing some Dallas stuff too? That would rock. Just a consideration. You know, Mego almost did Dallas figures back in the day. And then, of course, Figures Toy Company has done Dallas figures recently. Maybe we'll talk about those in another episode. Okay, I've got to get this. I've got to get all this packaging out. Here is her stand. I will note too, Joan Collins. I've seen her, met her in person. I saw her at a show in New Jersey, an autograph show. She has become part of what I would consider, not the Comic-Con circuit, but more the autograph show circuit. And she was at a show in New Jersey, oh gosh, 3 or 4 years ago when I saw her, and she was just wonderful. Looked great. So I think I'm going to have to cut apart some of this stuff. I want to do this carefully. Carefully from the back. So bear with me as we're living it together here. I'm just going to cut all this stuff. Again, it's out of the box time. Yeah, easier to cut. My trusty scissors. Let me see if that's going to... Oh, we got some stuff from the bottom too to cut. Ah, there goes the stand. Okay. Interesting little mule shoes. Of course, the Barbie mold. Her feet have always been so incredibly tiny, so unrealistic. But you know, I hear that, in fact, I heard on the news a week or two ago as of press time that they are going to be coming out with some different Barbie molds that are a little bit more realistic. Oh my gosh, she's got painted toenails. Hello, she's got painted toenails. Boy, do we love that. Put her shoe back on. I guess I got to cut this little guy off of her. Off you go. All right, and then she's got this backdrop that is basically the Carrington mansion. And then, as you saw at the beginning, Krystle's got the other side of that, which is cool. How am I going to get this off? I think I'm going to have to do some more cutting. Boy, Mattel, you really got her tacked in here in a lot of places. Another wrist. Again, this is a toy, in quotes, geared toward adults. I can't imagine a kid trying to deal with this packaging on Christmas morning. Okay, careful with the beautiful Nolan Miller gown. Boop. All right, yeah, she had that. Actually, this went all the way around her waist, interestingly enough. She was really held in place there. Okay, so a note, too, about the Barbie mold here. Gosh, I almost want to maybe go out on a limb without researching this online and saying that this is like an 80s Barbie mold. I remember when they started doing this. When I was a kid, I had, oh gosh, what was my, Malibu. Malibu Barbie was my first Barbie. She had straight arms. In the 80s, they started making it jazzy with one bent arm like this. So I want to say they might have just, because I know another episode off in the future will look at the Barbie dolls for Batman, the Adam West Batman, and the Julie Newmar Catwoman that came out a couple years ago. And those, amazingly, marvelously enough, they used the mold, the Barbie mold of the time, of the era, the late 60s. So it would be perfectly reasonable, and I would applaud if they chose an 80s Barbie mold, but that's what I want to say here. And look at her painted fingernails. I'm hoping this is zooming in or focusing on that. She's got lots of nice plastic jewelry here. She's got her own lovely diamond ring and a big bracelet. Joan Collins, I'll note too, just had an auction of her belongings a couple months ago, I think in December, and there were included in that auction through Julian's auction very beautiful pieces from Dynasty. Lots of gowns. Not this one, I don't think. I didn't remember seeing it. But lots of gowns and just suits and things, even a nightgown that she wore in Dynasty, and also pieces of costume jewelry. They did tend to use costume jewelry for the show. Stephanie Beacham, who played Sable Colby, told me that when I interviewed her a few years ago, that they just couldn't afford the liability, so they used what she called paste jewelry. So, but some of those pieces that Joan Collins wore as Alexis were auctioned off then as part of that, were in her own collection. Oh, she's got strings here too. There are strings that are holding this necklace on. I'm not sure if I'm going to take, they're kind of the elastic threads. I'm not sure if I'm going to take those off at the moment, but just to give you more detail, there is her sexy legs. Oh, and she's got a tag here. Oh, I love that. Barbie Collector, and it's a nice silky tag. Very good. Let's see if there's any other detail we can focus on here on the back. I'm going to tuck that little flap in, whatever it is. Does she have any markings on the back? Oh! Pardon me, I haven't taken that off yet. And boy, we got to be careful with this because I don't want to cut her hair. I am probably going to get in the way here. Her hair's going to get in the way. Beep. These are the little plastic tie things that are rooted right into her head, so not much can be done about that. There we go. Okay, I don't think we got any hair in that. And she's got her very characteristic short hairstyle going on that Joan Collins wore for this role. Very much a Barbie face, but, you know, we could see a little Alexis in there, and even earrings. Wow. I wonder if these are the kind, oh, I'm going to just flip out. If they're the, there was a kind of Barbie, in fact, I have this downstairs still. This is what's crazy. There was a Barbie with short blonde hair, much like this. I think she was called like the Quick Change Barbie or something, and she came with lots of accessories and different looks that you could switch out, and in fact even wigs. But she came with earrings that you could take. Yeah, they've done it. True to the 80s Barbie. They've got like the post that you can take out. I'm not going to fiddle with it now, but that was the same way on that 80s Barbie I'm talking about, that Quick Change Barbie or whatever, that you could change out her earrings, and they just basically were posts that you put in there, and she had other jewelry. Just so Lovely. You know, what I'm noticing, she is on an angle. Her hips are on an angle. She does not swivel at her hip, so that is a deviation from a typical Barbie at the time or otherwise. Yeah, she is a special mold. There is no separate piece here. There's no separation at the waist. So she is posed, comes pre-posed, although she does have articulation in her arms and her head and her legs. Articulation. Okay. Oh, so nice. I see some lavender in that eyeshadow too. Okay, well, this is a great doll. All in all, I was glad to find her, painted toenails and all. So yeah, stay tuned because next week we will take a look at Krystle, the other half of this very special set of Barbies celebrating Dynasty. Thanks for watching.